Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1326 of our daily content grind. You can see we are still in our cartoon TJ arc, which should be over soon. However, today I thought it was appropriate to stay this way because I wanted to talk about the illustrations of Transformers over the years, specifically the most iconic ones that most Transformer fans who have used Google in the last few years should have seen or known by now. So this is kind of inspired by a topic that I left off of the news list because I didn't want to drag the mood down, because, we don't need that, but it is worth addressing. Last week it was reported that the artist behind the original mural that appeared on the back of Transformers packaging during its first year, you'll excuse me as I struggle on this name, David Schleinkoffer, unfortunately passed away, and I wanted to kind of pay tribute to not only him but a lot of the other artists who have done some of the most well-known images in Transformers today. So if we take a closer look, at the mural, this is something that I think is sorely missing from Transformers packaging these days. The boxes are so obsessed with informing the figure and so loaded with copyright information for multiple languages. You don't have space for things like this anymore, which is great for spurring the imagination of a kid. Like, what kid looking through toy aisles would see a scene like this on the box and not immediately want to recreate something this cool, in their toy chest? I love artwork like this because this came before Sunbow did anything with these models. This is strictly based on the toys. You never see artwork based strictly on the toys anymore. And fascinating the way it gets depicted. You have characters up top who are barely recognizable. You've got Soundwave spitting out cassette after cassette, including what appears to be multiple Ravages. We have a Starscream that you can see trailing through all of his transformation steps, going from, finishing off with, battling directly with Optimus Prime. Though perspective-wise, it looks like he's almost shooting Prowl. But before that, it almost looks like he's shooting Laserbeak. But then again, this is very Starscream. Also, it's always fascinated me that these murals always take place in space, because you didn't see Transformers battling in space really until Season 3. So this was a very different depiction. Kind of cool. You'll also note, number one, there's two Soundwaves in this picture. The two Starscreams I can excuse because maybe they're just transforming. But no, there's two Soundwaves and two Ravages. No Megatron. No Megatron on this box art. Also, I have yet to see an Optimus Prime with an Autobot symbol on the back of his hand. Now, so for those curious about the 85 and 86 murals, those were handled by Jeffrey Mangiat. And he's done a lot for Transformers as well, including a lot of the original packaging art. But I love this shot. Now we can see Earth below. And there's less repetition going on here, but it does still exist. You can see multiples of Dinobots. There's a couple of swoops on the page. There's multiple Snarl. There's a full team of Constructicons, even though Devastator is right there. I really like, you'd also see Grimlock leaving the planet in beast mode and transforming into robot mode. So Grimlock is on this cover 3 times. I get the feeling they didn't know which toys were going to be released in 85, so they decided to just duplicate the toys that they were informed of. My favorite shot here is Blitzwing, who apparently flew off of Earth in tank mode, only to then transform into jet mode once he got into space. And then we have the artwork for the 86 line. And ironically, every time we do new artwork for the back of these boxes, we are getting closer and closer to the planet's surface. This one definitely has less repetition going on. Actually, there's one more thing. One more thing I completely forgot about on this one. Look in the middle. That's not tracks. That's road rage. I'm guessing, on top of the fact they didn't know exactly which toys would be out, I'm also guessing that they didn't know what color schemes were going to be out. It looks like they were given the Diaclone toy in order to make the drawing. Fun trivia piece. Okay, now let's look at the 86 art. And again, less repetition going on here. I don't see like any character in particular who appears more than once. And really good variety of things going on. I can see Silverbolt, I can see Springer. You do have Hot Rod appearing in both vehicle and robot mode, which, okay, little bit of repetition there. You have in the top, which like over Metroplex's left tower there, you have a character who appears to be like, I'm trying to suss it out. They have an axe weapon, which confuses me. Like, it's almost a Sharkticon, but it's not. The colors are completely off. Like, I'm really lost on who that's supposed to be. The axe is Wreck-Gars. I don't know what the rest of this is. But yeah, that's a weird little piece of history. He's the artist here. Jeffrey's also the one who did the original artwork of Optimus Prime, and obviously we all should know this piece of artwork by now. Again, sticking very close to how the original toy looked, complete with the stickers, and this has always been a pretty iconic piece. This has been a really well-known image, and it looks good. And a lot of the artwork from the first 2 years follow this same kind of trend. Now, if you're curious, there is an alternate art. Now, if you've ever seen a Japanese reissue, you probably know this pose for Optimus Prime, which is far more likely something that the toy could actually replicate if you are posing it. This one was done by Shin Uin. Sorry if I'm butchering a name. I apologize. Shin Ueda. Shin also did the murals for the Japanese version of the box arts, which aren't as well known, but they are still pretty freaking awesome. So here the repetition you see comes from just demonstrating transformation elements. You can see the aerial bots in vehicle mode, then in robot mode, and then, obviously into Superion mode. There's a flow to everything. I'm not sure, but I think in the package box art, I feel like in the world of Transformers, it's just a wasteland, because look at the size of the craters down below. There's one crater that's right in the middle of the city. This place has been screwed up. Also, I'm pretty sure I can see a white Ultra Magnus in the shot, along with the standard Ultra Magnus, so maybe a little bit of repetition. Just a little bit. It's certainly better than the other ones we've seen. I love these pieces of art. You don't see it anymore, and even if it was just like promo stuff for upcoming toy lines, I wish they would do this more. You got it a little bit for Kingdom, and then they found out it was a mistake because 3 or 4 toys from that were canceled or delayed. So maybe it's not the best, because these have to be drawn well before they've decided what the lineup's going to be sometimes. Let's stick to Japan, and I'm going to go into art that I don't have an exact artist for because it's credited to a studio, and that is Studio Ox. If you see old school G1 art that has been around forever and has this hyper anime style to it, it is going to be Studio Ox designs. Hallmarks of them include the extra greeble detail that you see a lot of these, extra wiring, especially if you see an Optimus Prime with wide ears, like wide ear horns, that's usually Studio Ox. It's a very distinct anime style that they have going on. And this image of Optimus kind of passing the torch to Rodimus Prime, this is one of those things that kind of filled the gap in between season 2 and 3 if you were in Japan. Because remember, they had no idea what happened in the movie. They didn't get the movie for another 5 years. So, point being, Actually, no, it's not 5 years, it's like 3 years. Someone's gonna fact check me. Point is, it created weird stuff like this that continuity-wise makes absolutely no sense. But the handshake between Optimus and Rodimus becomes iconic because of this shot. There are toys that will let you replicate this shot, which I think is actually kind of cool. Studio Ox did a lot of really good, hyper-detailed depictions of G1 Transformers, my favorite of which is one I've used more than once on this channel, and it's the shot of the original Scramble City style combiners getting along somehow, like in this weird like mission they had to undertake where all of them could actually work together. It's a fascinating piece of art because this is something you never see. And it's also one of the very, very rare pieces of artwork that will actually show you the Scramble City gimmick. They never showed this in the comic books. They never showed this in the cartoon. Scramble City showed it in between team members, kind of, because the character models didn't really stick too close to it. But this is the only time you see like multiple teams scrambling up in some kind of official depiction. And it's a really, really cool thing to see. I love this shot. And I would love to know the story of this shot. Why are they getting along? Why are they actually cooperating here? Studio Ox has done just a ton of stuff. And they also are the artists behind a lot of the manga like story pieces. You know, you see things like the original artwork for Giltar, or some of the like Battlestars artwork that, you know, provide us the only visual examples of what happened in the last years of the G1 storyline. There you go. They're the ones behind it. But beyond that, let's go back to America and we'll show you a few of the American comic book artists. So for starters, we have the original cover of Transformers issue 1 from Marvel. This is done by Bill Sienkiewicz, and it's a cool shot, but it's super weird, right? Optimus Prime looks like he's wearing tidy whities instead of his standard leg design. He is drawn incredibly huge and very oddly proportioned, seeming to have no forearms whatsoever, going straight from bicep to wrist. I, for the life of me, still do not know who the humans depicted in this cover are. I don't know who the kid or his grandpa behind him is, or why their heads are so huge, why they're smiling at the giant robot. I also do not know why Optimus Prime is the size of a freaking Megazord in this shot. Other things you can see that are of note here. So here's your trivia. What Transformers appeared on the cover of the original issue? Optimus Prime's the obvious one. Starscream is getting crushed in his hand, which, spoiler alert, never actually happened. You can also see Laserbeak there, which is an interesting choice. No Megatron, no Soundwave, no other big name Autobots. Gears is there though. Gears is also flying and firing off weapons he has never had since. I'm willing to bet someone could probably guess Starscream. If they really know the cover, they might get Laserbeak. The one that will stump them on trivia night is Gears. So there you go. Take that and run with it. But this isn't even the most famous cover of the original Marvel Transformers comic book. That would be this. The Transformers are all dead. The first visual that tells you, take Shockwave seriously. This is absolutely iconic. There is no piece that has been homaged or copied or merchandised more than this one. This one is by Mark Bright, who did quite a bit of work in around that time for comic books and Marvel as well. He's actually the first artist who ever got to draw Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe without a mask, which is kind of a noteworthy thing. You know, because even today, that's kind of a rare thing to see. Now, if we're taking a look at some of my personal favorites, there's one image that's stuck in my mind forever. Forever. And that is this shot. This is essentially the Transformers fans' introduction to body horror, as Megatron and Ratchet, in an attempt to bring both back to life, have unfortunately fused into this, a creature of iconic visual that has never been replicated in toy form, and that's probably for the best. This was done by Andrew Wildman, who is actually very prolific in Transformers. He's done illustration work for this franchise all the way up to the IDW era. He's been around a long time. He's one of the most well-known of the Transformer artists, and he gets his humble start right here in the later issues of Transformers G1. This is issue 69, which is like really close. That's like within a year of the end of the run, because they only went for 80 issues. I was actually surprised. I thought this happened like in the middle somewhere, not toward the end. I really need to read the Marvel comics, don't I? I need to do a whole video series just like, hey, I just read so and so many issues of the original Marvel comics, and then just make that like a weekly series as I like explore them. But no, he also did the cover, by the way, which is almost as iconic. That Help Us thing has actually been homaged in several things. I want to say Universe 2 Ratchet had that as his license plate, which is super creepy to think about, but that is true. Now, I'm not just going to give the original Marvel run its flowers here. Much as I hate to admit it, Dreamwave produced a few real bangers as well. A lot of people know this shot of Ultra Magnus, and I think it's Dreamwave and Dreamwave alone that has made the white Ultra Magnus kind of a cool thing to break out. Now, as cool as this image is, it is credited to Pat Lee. Pat Lee himself is a horrible human being and did not deserve the Transformer license to begin with. Also, he put his name on the stamp of a whole lot of artist work that he didn't actually do. That includes artists like Alex Milne, who did a lot of work for Dreamwave, saw barely or even no pay behind it sometimes, while Pat Lee went off and bought another exotic sports car with the money that the company brought in. No wonder the company went under. So, even though it's credited to Pat Lee, we don't actually know if it was him who did the original artwork on this. So, but it's still, like, I will admit, a really cool shot and really elevates an otherwise unused Transformer. Now, Pat Lee does have actual art credits under his belt that people are very, very well versed in. This shot of Optimus Prime shows up a lot of places. But so does this one. When we're talking Pat Lee, we can't not talk about this cover done by him. So, I want everyone to see where Optimus Prime's chest is, and you can see where the top of his chest is because of this. Now tell me where his shoulders are mounted, and tell me where his neck is. This is an image that showed up everywhere, but it is so laughable and mockable now. Why did Pat Lee ever get the Transformers license? Why did he ever get this franchise? Like, this is like an absolute embarrassment. But hey, any chance to point and laugh at Pat Lee, right? Live action fans, I'm not going to leave you out of this. Even though this is probably more digital than illustration, there's definitely some normal, like, classic artwork going on behind this. This poster for the 07 movie, the first poster we saw, this excited everybody. Just the scale that we were we were bracing ourselves for, that brief look of an Autobot symbol's eye with an actual eye in it, which is not a visual we were used to. And the perfect tagline, "Their war, our world," which is a great tagline, but it also kind of informs the direction the movies would eventually go in, where humanity in these fictions tended to see it as very much us versus them, and that led to a lot of bad movie stories. But point being, this was exciting. Like, this made it feel real. We are actually getting live action Transformers. I get to see a live Transformer movie in the big theaters. This is cool. Yeah, this got everyone excited. This got everyone excited. I think this is more iconic than any of the posters that came after that actually depict Optimus, Megatron, Bumblebee, whatever, even though some of those are also very noteworthy. And I'm going to wrap it up with one of my favorites of all time. This was the background on my PC for a long time. And it's this Unicron artwork that we saw recently. This is done by Clint Felker. And this is not an official piece of Transformers artwork. This is something he did because he just thought it would be really cool to see Unicron on a throne made of a conquered planet, gripping a pair of moons as handrests. It's an incredibly cool, imposing, frightening picture of Unicron that really should be given more credit than it currently gets. This design, or at least this interpretation of Unicron, is currently being plagiarized by Premium Collectibles Studio, who is making a museum-scale statue of this particular scene. In their own art style, granted, but the concept is definitely stolen from this artwork. Now, I am tempted to access their website for this video in order to find out who the sculptor was, because that's ultimately the one responsible for ripping off Clint. But as of this recording, their website is currently down, so I couldn't suss out who was actually behind this one. But there you go. We know who the original artist is. He deserves more credit. And in general, Transformers artists deserve a lot more credit than they get. You see, like, artists showing their stuff off like 5 years after it came out because they're under some kind of weird, like, you don't disclose what you've done kind of contract, which is a kind of sneaky legal way of retaining your artist without actually having to keep them under an exclusivity contract that would be more expensive. It's a nasty piece of work, and it does prevent these artists from getting more work when their artwork is currently in every toy shelf or seen on every poster or whatever. It's a scummy practice, and I appreciate toy companies a lot more when they credit their artists, their sculptors, and the people who are actually behind the toy, or behind the artwork in this case. So, this is a call to give the artists more credit, and to respect the artists who kind of bring your imagination to life with all of these stories and scenarios. And obviously, if we're talking iconic imagery, I could go on for days about still images from the various shows and movies, but we'll save that for another time. For now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have been a little bit more educated about where your artwork for this franchise comes from. And as always, I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.